Here's a business class flight to Europe. Now you can either pay $1,500 or 50,000 Chase points. And now this is a tremendous value, but here's the thing. Most people don't know how to redeem their points like this. Instead, they're redeeming them for half of this value or less. And so in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to avoid these costly mistakes that's costing you hundreds of dollars in travel value. And by the end of the video, I'll even show you how to piece together a European vacation while maximizing your Chase points. Now before we get into the good stuff, let me show you what not to do, and I'm going to show you this live from my Chase account. So to start off, you log into your Chase account and you get into your Ultimate Rewards portal by clicking on this icon over here. And then make sure to select your Chase Sapphire card because you get the most value out of your points from the Sapphire Preferred or the Sapphire Reserve card. In this video, we're going to be talking about the value you get from the Sapphire Preferred. And there are a lot of ways to get to where you want to go to redeem your points, but for this video, I'm going to scroll down and click on more ways to use under discover ways to use points, and then it'll bring you to all the different ways that you can redeem your Chase Sapphire points. To start off with exactly what you should not do, it's this pay with points option. This is whenever you're checking out with PayPal, or maybe you're on Amazon, and whenever you're checking out on Amazon and you're using your Chase card, you might see this question, want to use Chase Ultimate Rewards points for this order? The answer is always going to be no. And Chase actually tells you why. It tells you that you're getting $307 for a full 38,000 points, whereas if you use any of these other redemption options, you'll get a full $384. So you might be tempted with the convenience, but you're literally throwing money away. And to understand why this is such a bad deal, we need to discuss something called cents per point, or CPP for short. Here's how to calculate it. You take the cash value of what you're getting and divide it by the total number of points that you're using. And that will tell you how much your points are worth. So for the instance of pay with points, you're getting 0.8 cents per point. So you're literally throwing away 20% of your points value. But luckily, there's not really any other options that are as bad. None of them are that great. I typically call them my emergency options, or if cash is a little bit tight and you're in a crunch. For instance, you can redeem your points just for cash back at a 1 cent per point ratio, as you can see here. But some options that will give you maybe slightly more value, one of them is this pay yourself back option. This used to be really valuable whenever it first launched, and what it is that you're able to get a statement credit from purchases that you already done. And now where this gets valuable is the promotions that they have. For instance, right now for select charities, you get 25% more value. If you select see more, it'll show you that list of charities. And so if you make a donation to any of these, use your Chase Sapphire Preferred, and then you're able to come here and select whichever transactions, and then it will give you a statement credit for that amount that you spent at a 1.25 cent per point value. Now this was previously more value because they had broad categories like gas stations and groceries. And so what I like to do, and what you still can do with this charity option, but let's say I had an Airbnb stay for $300 and I wanted to use points to try to cover that cost. Instead of cashing out points at a 1 cent per point, I could redeem some old transactions, $300 worth at a 1 cent per point value as a statement credit and pay for that Airbnb that way. And so you still can if you do any of these charity donations, but that's just kind of a pro tip for you. Now I would never really recommend it, but theoretically you could get more value from gift cards because they do run promotions. For instance, 15% off, so you're getting 1.15 cent per point value, but they're gift cards, so they're not nearly as flexible as cash, for instance. And Shop Apple does have sporadic promotions where you can get 1.25 cents per point with the Chase Sapphire Preferred. And now just a quick note, whenever I'm say 1.25 cents, that's going to be with Chase Sapphire Preferred specifically, but if you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, most of these numbers are going to be 1.5 cents per point. That's just because that's a premium card, and so you get premium rewards that way. And now there are a few other ways to get value, but it's kind of a headache to kind of go through all this, and you're getting 1 cent per point anyway, so I would probably just recommend just get a statement credit. And so let's get into some of the fun stuff. Let's book some travel. And so we're going to start off with the Chase Travel Portal here. So this is the Chase Travel Portal. We're going to get started on that European vacation that I promised you. And now this works just like any travel search engine that you know of, Google Flights, Kayak, whatever. And so just type in where you want to go. And for this itinerary, we're going to London in the springtime. So we'll go ahead and hit search. And now I like to use the Chase Travel Portal in order to find cheaper hotel stays typically. I shoot for spending around 15,000 points per night. It's really an arbitrary number. That's just kind of the range that I find that I'm okay spending with the value of the hotel that I'm getting as well. And so as you can see, whenever you search, it's going to give you 1,193 results. So I go through one by one and figure out what, I'm just kidding. So what we're going to do is going to go filters, and then we're going to scroll this price per night all the way down. I try to go sub $200 range is what I like. And now you can use some of these other filters here, like 4 stars and up on TripAdvisor, and then hit show results. And it's going to update all that for you. And it's really nice. You can update the map and figure out where you want to go. And so from here, I would do that research, figure out what hotel, what area, and all that good stuff. And so once you find one, you just select it. It'll go through, it'll have you shop for whatever room you want. And so just kind of click through all the way here, figure out if you want a refundable fare, hit add to trip. And then once you get to the checkout page, it'll give you that option to use your points in order to book this. You could do partial payment with your points as well, and it'll give you a value of 1.25 cents per point, which is not bad. It's better than the 1 cent per point that we were talking about earlier. And now something to do on this checkout page is to make sure that you look at the fine print, like at these rules and policies, cancellations, and all that good stuff. Be aware of everything that you're signing up for. Sometimes they'll have hidden amenity fees or resort fees tied in here that says like, oh, you also have to pay $30 per night whenever you check into the hotel or something along those lines. So just be careful. And there are some other things to be aware of whenever you book something through the travel portal, since it is a third-party agency. And I have a video dedicated to that topic linked up above for you to search later. And then other than that, that's how simple it is to use the Chase travel portal. But here's where it gets exciting. We've been hitting this ceiling of 1.25 cents per point, right? Well, we're going to break through that ceiling by actually transferring our points outside of Chase's program into one of their transfer partners. This is a game changer, but before we dive in, here are 2 tips. One is that transferring your points from Chase to a transfer partner is a one-way street. You cannot return your points back from the transfer partner or airline back to Chase. That doesn't happen. 2, not every transfer partner and not every redemption is created equal. Some of them aren't worth the transfer. I'm going to show you how to identify and avoid the bad ones. But now back to the Europe trip, let's talk about how to get there. And Virgin Atlantic is one of Chase's transfer partners. That's a great option to book flights with. Now the first step before transferring your points is finding the award availability you actually want to book. And from time to time for flights, I like to use a tool called seats.aero. I won't go into detail because I have a whole playlist and a bunch of videos on this specific subject. So we're just going to look for flights on Virgin Atlantic real quick. To use seats.aero and its full potential for a year's worth of award availability at a time, it is $10 per month. And it is worth it if you're doing a lot of these. However, for the average user, maybe not. There are some other free tools and free ways of looking for availability as well. But let's say we're flying from New York, so I'm going to type in JFK and we're flying to London here. And I'm going to sort for the lowest prices here. And then as I filter for the date here, we found availability on the 21st. And so if we take a flight on the 20th, I'll hit this I, we'll actually find a flight that gets us there on the 21st that morning. So as we can see, flights here are just 6,000 points one way and $72. Now, whenever you're using an award search tool, you always need to double check with that airline. So we're gonna just verify that this is here. And so I used the tool to find this award availability, but you could just go to vir.com and search natively on their website. It's just a little bit easier for me to use that tool. And so as we can see here on March 20th, we've got all these options for just 6,000 points. That is incredibly cheap. But how can we actually confirm that this is a good deal? Because there's cheap flights from New York to London all the time. To figure this out, we're going to go to Google Flights to get the cash value of this flight. So if we search this one-way itinerary, you can see it's $240. However, maybe a more accurate way of trying to figure out how much value you're getting is by looking up round trip, since that's probably how we would usually book this type of itinerary. And as we can see, it's $400 round trip. Divide that by 2, so maybe it's about $200 of value that we're getting from this flight. Now, I mentioned that calculation earlier, but I do have this award redemption analyzer that I created for you down in the description, and it just kind of makes it so much more easier. So you simply just type in this information here. We're getting $200 for the cash price of the trip, and we're spending 6,000 points and $72 in taxes and fees. This will subtract the taxes and fees from the cash price and then divide it by 6,000 to give you a 2.13 cent per point value, which is significantly better from the other options we talked about so far. And this tool even compares it to the travel portal for you, and we can see the 1.25 cents pales in comparison. And now a great way to maximize your points is by taking advantage of a transfer bonus. Not too long ago, Chase actually had a record high 40% transfer bonus over to Virgin Atlantic, and we can use this to help calculate that. As we can see, we would only need to transfer 5,000 points and we would get nearly 3 cents per point, which would be tremendous. So we're seeing the value of transferring your points, but now let's move on to the next part of our trip. Now, once you've found that availability and you know that it's confirmed and there, you can transfer your points by going back to the Ultimate Rewards portal, hitting these drop down menus and hit transfer points to partners. You'll then need to find Virgin Atlantic, enter your loyalty number, hit some confirmation pages, and transfer the number of points that you need. And then you could book that flight on Virgin Atlantic's website. But while we're here, I want to talk to you about another transfer partner. It's a point expert's favorite just because of how consistent value you can get, and that's going to be Hyatt Hotels. So let's go to Hyatt.com, and let's say for the second part of our trip, we want to go over to Prague. And so we could just search for hotels in Prague, Czech Republic, type in the dates we're interested in, make sure to log in and select use points and hit find hotels. It'll then give us all of our options here. And as you can see, we've got 2 different hotels and they range greatly in price. We've got this Lindner Hotel, which is maybe a little bit more budget, but it's also highly ranked. And then you've got the Andaz Prague, which is definitely a more luxurious option for a higher number of points. Let's say we want to go for the cheaper option right now. Before transferring any points, you'll want to go to view rates, because just because it's showing up there doesn't mean it's actually available for those dates. From here, once you see this option, then you know that it's actually bookable. And so one step further, I like to go select and book, so it will tell you exactly how many points you need. So it's going to cost 20,000 points for all 4 of these nights. I already have a few points left in my account, but 20,000 points total. So that's the easiest way to know how many points to transfer, but another easy way is by going to points calendar from the previous page, and it will tell you how many points per night it will cost. Now, this doesn't tell you if there's actually any award availability, it's just the pricing calendar. It's helpful to check because sometimes there is off-peak and on-peak pricing, so it may vary by the night. So if you transfer 20,000 points, it may actually be too much or too little depending on the dates that you're booking. Now, I went ahead and put both of the hotel options within my analyzer here. So this is a cheaper option where we're spending 20,000 points. I looked up the cash price and it's going to cost 499 euros. Now, handling my award redemption analyzer does come with a currency converter, so I was able to plug those in and got $517. And then here's the Andaz Hotel, which is $1,000 of value for 100,000 points. As you can see, there's a big difference in what you're receiving in terms of cent per point between these 2 redemptions. So in this case, the cheaper hotel actually gives you better value. However, this isn't always the case. Sometimes it's that the more expensive hotel has the bigger value and the cheaper hotel just has okay value. Now, this brings up an interesting question. What is value to you? Would you prefer the cheaper redemption so you could save more points for another trip, or would you splurge for the luxury option? Now, there's no wrong answer, and you may actually find that your preferences change depending on what the trip is about. But it is something to consider. I just wanted to bring that up to you. But now here's some bonus tips for Hyatt booking specifically. One is that whenever you book a room with points, it's refundable, meaning that whenever you cancel your hotel room, you'll get your points back. Just be sure to look at the fine print whenever you go to book your room, because usually it's within 24 hours that you can cancel, but sometimes it may be 3 days or 28 days if it's a peak holiday booking or at a very super luxurious resort. Second of all, there's no resort or amenity fees whenever you make hotel reservations using your points. Oftentimes, like in the travel portal, whenever you go book a hotel, it'll give you the price, but then it'll tell you, oh, there's a $30 amenity fee per night that you have to pay at the hotel. And you might even see that on the Hyatt website whenever you're booking with cash. However, that won't apply to you if you're booking with points. It's one of my favorite things about using Hyatt specifically. So whenever you're comparing cash prices to your hotel rooms, you may want to factor in those additional costs and perks. But enough about hotels. Now let's get into our grand finale, and that's getting you back home in style. And for this, we're going to be using Flying Blue. Now, Flying Blue is a rewards program that houses the airlines Air France and KLM. Let me show you. This is airfrance.us, and I love using Flying Blue because they're just such a great way to get to Europe for cheap, and it's easy to find award availability. So what you're going to do is just type in Prague to JFK, and then you're going to want to leave this departure date open. And for this redemption, let's splurge a little bit and let's go to business class and go ahead and hit search flights. And it's going to bring you this award calendar. And so let's say we want to go towards the end of March here. And look at that, they've got something on March 27th. So if we click here, it will take us to our award availability. We scroll down and there's that 50,000 point price. And so you're gonna have a connection in Paris, just under 2 hours, and it's just 50,000 miles and $316. I went ahead and put in my analyzer, and there's a comparable flight for about $1,500. And putting in the points and taxes, you can see we're getting a great value at 2.44 cents per point. Now, just a note about business class award flight bookings. I typically start off with my flights and then work backwards with the hotels from there. It just kind of depends on what I'm looking for. And now I've shown you just 3 of Chase's 14 transfer partners, and you would guess right if you believe that just about all of them have some value to provide you. So if you want to see more examples about how to use these transfer partners, I recommend you check out this video where I rank all of Chase's transfer partners. And don't forget to subscribe by clicking on my face. I'll see you in the next one.